When I think of summer, my mind immediately turns to one of the defining seasons of my nerd life, the summer blockbuster movie season. For years, all the movies that I'd been eagerly anticipating would finally come out in theaters during that glorious cinematic window of time between May and September. Superhero movies, epic space sagas, animated features, all of the high-action, low-plot spectacles that Hollywood could generate. If a movie featured giant robots, space aliens, massive explosions, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, then you knew it was coming out in the summertime. And if we're lucky, it would feature all of the above. And thanks to the modern renaissance that's occurring in the comic book movie realm, as a viewing audience, we have received dozens of superhero movies I would have never believed was possible. Previously lesser-known characters like Guardians of the Galaxy and Shazam are getting the opportunity to share the screen with proven icons like the Avengers and the Justice League. We won't mention Green Lantern here. That one still hurts a little too much.
That wasn't great. But within all the vast amount of cinematic universes we are currently enjoying that encompasses everything from comic book superheroes, Star Wars, Transformers, Godzilla, and just about any other franchise that has the ability to print money, really, there's still room for these movies to fail. And with a current estimated loss of about $200 million at the time of this reporting, The Flash seems poised to go down in history as one of the largest box office bombs of all time. And I want to understand why.
Well, let's get the obvious out of the way. The movie itself, it's not a bad piece of cinema for its genre. It certainly isn't any worse than any other similar releases that have fared much better financially. It has an average audience score of 83% positive. And considering that this movie featured the much anticipated return of Michael Keaton and his first and perhaps last step back into Batman's boots in 30 years, this movie should have succeeded for a plethora of reasons. The Flash movie had a lot going for it. A full-budgeted, cinematic take on the Flashpoint story arc. Michael Keaton as Batman. Multiple confirmed superhero cameos. Connection to the beloved DC Snyderverse series of movies. Michael Keaton as Batman. One of our final chances to say goodbye to the first iteration of DC's Cinematic Justice League. And it even featured Michael Keaton back as Batman.
Did you happen to notice that it also featured Michael Keaton as Batman? I mean, I don't know if he mentioned that or not.
Oh yeah, it also had Michael Keaton back as Batman. So how did a movie that should have sped past all of its rivals end up failing to stick the landing? The blame for this does not lay at the feet of the content of the movie, that much is certain. While there may be complicated feelings for the audience towards the studio that released the film, or the actors within the film, or the actors who are not in the film, the reality is that movies featuring all of those same challenges succeed both critically and commercially all of the time. No, the reason that this movie doesn't even appear to be on track to match the performance of Black Adam's global receipts has a lot less to do with what the movie contained and a lot more to do with what it was missing. A feeling that the story that it contained had any future significance.
In the midst of all the external drama surrounding the Flash movie came a major announcement. A new leader, James Gunn, would be taking over the new DC Cinematic Universe, fresh off of his successful work with several other comic book licenses for both DC and Marvel. And with this reveal came the news that would doom the Flash movie, as well as the remainder of what DC was currently building around the first incarnation of their Cinematic Justice League.
Gunn is rebooting their franchises, recasting the characters, and building a new continuity, similar to the highly successful approach taken by their competition at Marvel Studios, where he worked. The interconnectivity between even seemingly unrelated franchises made almost every Marvel television and movie offering into must-see viewing for their fan base, because each release has the potential to impact the others, something DC and their disconnected stable of shows and movies has lacked. But while this news does mean that DC fans may finally have a true cinematic universe of their own to look forward to, it also spelled certain doom for the unreleased movies that had been generated prior to that decision and announcement. The Batgirl movie was outright canceled. The Flash movie poised to go down in history for all of the wrong reasons. And I'm a little bit nervous that the Aquaman sequel might need some serious help to avoid a similar fate.
Once we knew that these characters were all going to be replaced and the stories they were telling would not be connected to this new future, it kind of made it difficult to care about the movie beyond the sheer popcorn value of watching it. The urgency to see it in theaters diminished because we all knew deep down that this story doesn't actually matter anymore. We are about to see a new Superman, a new Batman, a new Justice League, and that means we will probably be getting a new Flash too.
And because of this knowledge, the stakes for this incarnation of the Flash were lowered. Regardless of who wins, loses, lives, or dies, it won't truly matter in the upcoming reboot of the franchise. And that's why events in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like the death of Iron Man or the sacrifice of Black Widow, had resonance in those movies that truly touched us at our core. We knew that these fictional events mattered and would continue to have a ripple effect far beyond those moments. Tony Stark was not coming back. Natasha had finally cleared her ledger, and stories such as the ongoing struggles of Peter Parker in his own Spider-Man movies or Hawkeye in his small-screen streaming adventures were impacted by those losses forever.
Whether we believe something has resonance beyond our current moment completely changes the way we process it, absorb it, and react to it. And in the shadow of the Flash's failure to connect with a worldwide audience lies a critical truth that we are all challenged with each day. Do we truly understand the impact of the moments we are currently living in and their connection to the bigger picture? The sad irony about the Flash movie is that the story was all about Flashpoint, the attempt to reverse a singular, painful canon moment in the history of the character that caused this previously ordinary individual to become the superhero known as the Flash.
In a desperate attempt to change the past, the Flash races back in time to alter this event. But in every comic, television, and now cinematic version of this character, the reality is that this moment cannot be changed. The entire DC multiverse, along with the MCU, is punctuated with these unalterable timeline events that represent a moment containing massive repercussions, some positive, some negative, all unable to be modified once they have been etched into the foundation of their respective worlds. And in our lives, if we fail to recognize these moments and the significance that they hold, we will find ourselves locked into a similarly frustrating story of what might have been, living the rest of our lives in a permanent state of what if, or if only, an imaginary multiverse where we made a better, different decision and saw our lives unfold in a manner more to our liking.
Like me, perhaps you made decisions you thought were small in the moment, unaware that they would have the life-altering consequences that they did. Fortunately, hope remains for each of us, not in going back to the past, but through fully facing our future with a different mindset than what got us into this mess in the first place.
Like Moses, I've made more than my fair share of canon-defining mistakes in life, moments that I failed to recognize until they were too late as divergences in the timeline of my life. Seemingly small, passing flickers of thought, emotions, and actions turned out to alter the course of my life and the lives of others, some for the positive, many that were not. Once those decisions were made, they resulted in irreversible outcomes that I could not change, no matter how much I tried, like Pilate, to wash my hands of them. This knowledge should not lead any of us to despair. These moments don't define us, and they now exist as part of the unique tapestry that led us to the very cross that saved each of us. But this awareness should also serve to reinforce our mindfulness on the importance of these rock-striking decisions that lie ahead of us and have yet to occur. These seemingly small and inconsequential moments that can leave us, like Moses, gazing longingly at a promised land we can no longer enter. And they tend to happen in a flash.
When the Lord spoke to the Samaritan woman at the well in John 4, he said, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is who says to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." Fortunately for her, she did not let this perishable moment slip through her fingers. She didn't fully understand it at the time, but this was her moment of visitation.
It was her one shot, a life-altering moment in her timeline. And she grabbed hold of it in a way that not only changed her life, but saved numerous lives in her city as well. And in the comparison of these events, we see a clear pattern emerge. No matter what we have done or how far we have fallen, the Lord will bring us to these places of decision. But they often don't appear to be more than just everyday moments in our lives. And this very familiarity will allow us to miss their importance if we aren't paying attention. Moses tried to produce the water by striking a rock. Pilate tried to use the water in a fruitless effort to cleanse his blood-stained hands, but only this Samaritan woman recognized the water for what it was and drank fully from the well. It was a seemingly small act of obedience that was taken for granted by those who didn't truly see what the action represented in the moment until it was too late.
The Flash was doomed to failure at the box office as soon as it was made crystal clear by the studio behind it that the movie would not be connected to the larger narrative that was being told. And once the story was disconnected from any sense of lasting value or purpose, even the best stunt casting on the planet could not bring relevance to this tale.
If we knew that these adventures were leading into the larger places that the DCU was going, I have a feeling the reception would have been much different. If it was at least moving into a final third Michael Keaton Batman movie, we would have been there with multiple tickets for multiple viewings. If this movie represented the beginning of a new Justice League DCU continuity instead of the final curtain call for these characters, it would have at least had a better chance of recouping its massive budget. We simply didn't believe that anything that was happening on the screen mattered. And the movie was met with apathy by the viewing audience as a result.
The same goes for the decisions that we are making in our real-world lives each and every day. Do we truly believe that each decision we make will have lasting ramifications in the lives that we are impacting? Do we prayerfully approach our lives with the understanding that even seemingly small moments will have eternal resonance beyond our comprehension?
Do we look at these rocks in front of us that represent our current dilemmas with the realization that how we react to their presence may alter the course of not only our lives but countless others as well? Do we truly recognize the relevance of the moment that we're currently living in and approach each interaction with the mind of Christ as our North Star?
The decisions we choose to make today matters to ourselves and in the lives of others who we may never even meet on this side of eternity. What we say, how we act, what we post, how we treat others, and every part of what we do either serves the Lord's will and purpose or undermines it.
There are no inconsequential moments in our lives, only those whose impact we failed to comprehend. With that in mind, how then should we choose to live? It all matters. So let's run our race today with the knowledge that we cannot alter the past behind us, but we can change what lies before us, one decision made in accordance with the Lord's will at a time. And with our daily awareness of the eternal implications of every choice we make, we can run the way He designed us to, hand in hand with Him, ever aware of the larger plan that we're connected to.